12:05 in the afternoon, right here on 90.3 FM. And it's time for Helping Seniors of Brevard. Whenever we hear that music, that means it's good to go and good to get in touch with our host and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here is Kerry Fink. Good afternoon, Kerry.
Hey, John Harper, thanks. It's always fun to be around the radio every Wednesday, lunchtime, 12 noon to 1 p.m. right here on 90.3 FM WEJF. And if you're listening online, we appreciate you tuning in as well, WEJF.net. And for the growing number that find us as a podcast, we are available every place that you will find podcasts, from Spotify to iHeartRadio to Apple iTunes to Amazon Music. We make sure we're there because we learn as we go along. Many people will find a topic like what we're going to cover today, which is those top 5 legal things that you should be thinking about in your New Year's resolutions for 2026. A lot of times people will hear a show and then they'll want to pull it back out and maybe reference some of the things that we talked about, because our guest today is board certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson of the law firm William A. Johnson, P.A. Hello, Bill. How are you? Happy New Year.
Happy New Year, Kerry.
And this is what I was saying is, like, so often we learn that people might hear a show and then they'll find out, like, wow, I need my significant other, my spouse, I need my son to hear this or whatever. And then they'll send somebody a link from the podcast, and it's really a good way for people to share good information. So one of the mission points for Helping Seniors, in addition to answering the Helping Seniors info line, took well over 4,000 calls again last year, 15 years of service to the community. But because of that, we learn things that seniors and their families will really benefit from. So our education programs are really, really kind of like an important piece of the equation to making sure seniors are getting all the information they need to make the best decisions. So before we actually get into the show today, I wanted to give you a moment to grab a pencil. I'm going to give you a couple of important dates that are coming up where you can get good information. One of them is actually happening tomorrow, and this is new for us, and we're excited that we have the opportunity to participate in this. This is called the Veterans Resource Roundtable, and it's a big event that's coming up right there at Joe's Senior Resource Center, 1344 South Apollo Boulevard. And our good friend Carlos Cuesta with Synergy Home Care has really done a great job of pulling together some of the top agencies who are great resources for our seniors here in Brevard County. And so it's going to happen tomorrow from 11 to 12:30. There's going to be coffee and donuts. They do ask that you RSVP because they literally are close to running out of space. So give us a call today at 321-473-7770 if you'd like to be part of that. It's good for veterans and their families to kind of just learn everything's out there. And Bill, I know that's one part of what you do is you help veterans and families navigate the things that might be resources that could be available to them as well.
We do that, and we deal mainly with non-service connected disability.
Okay.
We don't do service-connected disability, which is the injury or whatever caused you to be hurt occurred during your service. But veterans are eligible for a lot of benefits under non-service connected disability, as well as through the clinic.
Yeah, you and I were talking in particular just before the radio show about a program that I can tell you, like, probably if it's not 20 or 30, it's certainly a dozen or two folks who over the years have called into the helpline, and they were maybe the spouse of a veteran who had been in service, and they were really looking for a way to manage care or find a way to afford the care maybe that their loved one needed or something like that. And I can't tell you how many times we've introduced people to the VA aid and attendance program as an example, and they just simply didn't know it existed.
Correct. It's been described as one of the best kept secrets.
Yeah, I think so. Well, our focus today is actually going to be talking about items that you want to really get. You know, we all make our New Year's resolutions, and we want to talk about some things that are going to be valuable for you to put down on your aging plan. But again, just wanted to give you a couple of dates. So tomorrow, 11 to 12:30, Veterans Resource Roundtable right there at Joe's Center. And then on Friday afternoon, our series continues, Senior Tech Talks. Bree Prentice, who is a millennial who loves to teach us all how to do better with our smartphones and things like that. Our next installment happens every second Friday, 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. at the center. You are welcome to join. Everything we do as a charity, by the way, is for free. That's why we're always begging people to buy a raffle ticket, make a donation, keep the work of helping seniors going, because that's how we are able to put these programs together. But tomorrow, 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. at the center is Senior Tech Talk, and that's become very, very popular because, Bill, as you know, you go to a doctor's office or places like that, and they all say, oh, you just need to download the app and check in online. And to a senior, you could be speaking in an entirely foreign kind of language.
Oh, yeah, a lot of them have no kind of skills with regard to that.
Yeah, and usually the doctor's office answers, well, find your 9-year-old grandkid and get them to do it for you. But it's much better if you can learn how to do these things on your own. And one of the things that I've noticed in this class, by the way, is Bree is very patient, very good at explaining complex things. And she talks to people whether they have an iPhone or whether they have some kind of an Android phone, which is the other big family of phones. And she literally will walk you through, like, here's where that button is, here's how you download an app. And it's a great resource. So that's Friday, and it's actually every second Friday, 1 p.m. to 2:30 p.m. And again, tomorrow, Thursday, we'll do the Veterans Resource Roundtable. So that's going to be exciting stuff for us to kick this new year off with, Bill.
Maybe Bree could explain AI to me.
So I'm glad that you brought that up because, you know, one of the things that as helping seniors, we really try to go out of our way to provide education and services and things that are going to help seniors a lot. So this year, as you know, this is a great segue because I wanted to bring it up in the program at some point anyway. We've been very involved in a program called Scam Jam that we initiated last year. We had one earlier in the year in Vieira, and then we decided to take it on the road. So in November, we were up in Titusville. In February, we are going to be at Glenbrook Senior Living right here in Palm Bay because our idea is to move this around. But Bill, to your point, one of the things that we're talking with, of all people, this is kind of interesting. We'll see if it all pans out. But the commodities exchange, the part of the federal government that monitors that is watching a lot about AI, and there's a real possibility they're going to join us on February 13th and share some of their experience. And of course, AARP, they have a thing called the Fraud Watch Network, and they're really watching that. And literally this summer, it's already on the books. It's July, I believe it's July 7th, but we'll get to that later. We're actually doing an AI summit, and AARP is flying in some of their head folks who understand AI and are tracking it like moment by moment. They're going to be actually doing a whole helping seniors AARP kind of AI summit. So you'll want to stay tuned for that. But I agree with you. You know, AI is revolutioning everything, including how scammers work too, you know?
Well, you took the words out of my mouth because I just posted on my Facebook page a AARP article about the top 5 scams to watch out for.
See, there you go.
And yeah, if you don't belong to their website, they always, talk about how to avoid being scammed and what's going on out there.
Yeah, and when we do these scam jams, Bill, we always invite law enforcement professionals. We've had everybody from our state public attorney speak at these to representatives from Sheriff Ivey's Brevard County Sheriff's Organization, and they all tell us the same thing. Much better if you can head it off at the pass, because once the scam, once that train has left the stations, it's very, very difficult. And Bill, to that point, one of the people that's been very she'll be one of the speakers again at the one in February. Her name is Jackie Erickson. She's a vice president, branch manager with PNC Bank here in Palm Bay. And she's sort of on the front line of watching these seniors get scammed. And then they come in and everybody's upset, like, why didn't they stop this? And the problem for the bank is you gave them permission. So as tragic as this is, it's not the bank's fault. And so the bank would rather help you try to be wary before something happens, because once it's happened, you gave, it's not like somebody stole your credit card. You gave them that information, and now they're running with it, and it's very, very tough out there for seniors.
So the top 5.
Yeah.
One is employment scams.
Yep.
2 is recovery scams. You know, that you've lost money and you need to help us recover it. A lot of times they pose as the police or the bank and pretend they're helping you.
Yeah.
And then get your information and take it. Digital arrest is another one that, you know, that somebody you know has been arrested or held captive.
Yeah, my grandson is in jail in Tijuana or something, yes.
You need to send money.
Yep.
The one about where they contact you, they call it a hello pervert scam, but it is basically where they say they've caught you doing something on the internet.
Oh, and you better, we're going to tell everybody if you don't
pay. So those are, and romance scams, of course, are big.
You know, we were talking, so in the last Scam Jam, Karen Civitate, who is the lead Florida volunteer for ARP for our county, she gave a presentation about the romance scam, and literally someone in her family got romance scammed out of $150,000. And so to her, this is like very real, and she wants to share, you know, and she goes, and this person was not stupid, you know, and so they were kind of really surprised that this would actually work with that person, you know?
Yeah, they prey on their loneliness.
Yeah,
and then they get into your trust, and then they work on getting the money.
Yeah, and then the number one that you mentioned was about these employment scams, and I got to tell you, that was eye-opening for me because Lois Thomas, who is with Career Source Brevard, Flagler, Volusia, she's presented at our Scam Jam events before, and she was talking about those employment scams, and she told me about this particularly horrific one. So this lady goes to apply for a job, and it's online, of course, and the company is in Germany or something. So they say, well, you go ahead and we're going to send you a check so you can buy your laptop because you're going to work at home and all that. So, of course, they send the check, and it somehow goes into her account. But anyway, somehow through the process, they get all the information, so they drain her account. And now the bank and the sheriff has a warrant out for the lady for kiting a bad check because she bought the computer equipment. And so it was like almost the way Lois told the story is by grace of God, the lady was able to explain what was going on because, again, kind of goes back to that first thing we're saying is unfortunately the person gave the permission, so they got scammed, but they're still in trouble on the bank side and had to literally like talk themselves out of going to jail, you know?
Yeah, it's
incredible.
Horrific. They a new thing they do is on a lot of these scams, they convince you that you have to go pay them in Bitcoin.
Yep.
And they have, probably most people don't know this, but all across our county here are Bitcoin ATMs.
Yes.
And you can go to those and put money in, and it'll convert your cash into Bitcoin, and you can send it to somebody's wallet.
Yeah.
It has gotten so bad that down in South Florida, the police put a police officer in front of one of these, and almost every person who came in to use the machine was being scammed.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
Oh my goodness.
Because once you put it into Bitcoin and send it,
it's gone.
Can't trace it, can't get it back.
Yeah.
I Googled Bitcoin ATMs and found out there are 5 of them right in my area.
Oh yeah, no, it's quite ubiquitous now.
Yeah.
You know, well, it's interesting because again, you know, it seems like the common denominator all of these is you got to stop. What was they used to tell you about crossing railroads? Stop, look, and listen. But you really do have to stop because usually the scam artist is trying to get you to move fast on something, and so then you don't take the time to consult with the people that you probably ought to consult with, and therefore you are now in a situation where you have basically enabled the scammer to take advantage. And then the problem is, I think it also gets underreported, right, Bill? Because then you're embarrassed that you got scammed.
Correct.
And you don't want to report it or share that you were, quote, that stupid. And yet you're not stupid. The scammers are just really that diabolical.
They are. Yeah. One of a sheriff over on the west coast of Florida, I can't remember what county, but they set up a office where if you run into something like that, you can call them.
Yeah.
And they can tell you whether or not they think it's a scam.
Yeah. Oh, that would be a good thing.
Yeah.
So I want to encourage you, if you're listening to this, that literally February 13th, it's a Friday, and what we do is it's 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. kind of a day. So we do call it like a full day. Lunch is provided. Everything is free again, thanks to our friends at ARP and thanks to our friends at Glenbrook Senior Living. There's no charge, but it is limited to 70 seats, which is why you must RSVP. You have to RSVP. So you call us at 321-473-7770. Let me say it again. That's our Helping Seniors helpline, 321-473-7770. And they'll get you RSVP'd. Again, it's free. And everybody who goes through the program at the end of the day, you get a graduation certificate, Bill, and you are deputized as a scam jammer, and you raise your right hand and you promise that you will do your very best to keep yourself safe from all these scams, and that you will help those that you know and care about around you be on the lookout and stay safe from scams. And so it's been a fun program, and then we cap it off in the afternoon from 2 p.m. to 4 p.m. We'll do a shred truck. So ARP will bring a shred truck out. You get together all those documents, your old tax returns, bank statements, things that you do not want floating around in a in the garbage can, and they will come to your car. You pull up right next to the truck. They will come to the car. You don't have to try to lift these boxes, get them out yourself. They will get them. They will put them in the shred truck, and you'll watch them be shredded right before your eyes, and you will know that you have done a good job at stopping scammers. And that's all free. You don't even have to be registered for the Scam Jam. That's just open to the public, Bill.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, so it's a good way. Each time we've been very fortunate to be hosted by assisted livings who really see the value of being out in the community and helping us with this, but also, quite frankly, they'll send some of their residents in because they want them to stay safe too. And then what we always find is the records division of those places usually has some boxes that say, well, while you have the scam truck here, we need to get rid of these safely and securely. So that's always part of it too. But Scam Jam, February 13th. Again, the number for all these different events, whether it's the Veterans Roundtable, the Senior Tech Talk, or the Scam Jam, 321-473-7770. So now on with what we really want to talk about. Bill, each year we're good about making New Year's resolutions, and each year we're usually terrible about following through on them. But when we were trading emails and saying like what would be a good thing for us to talk about, it is a good time to pull out I call it the Big Five. Now, there's probably more to it than the Big Five, but I know over the years we've really talked like these are like the starting points of things that you want to talk about and make sure that, number one, that you have them, number two, that they were done correctly, and number three, maybe if you had them done a while back or in a different state, or God forbid you tried this on your own, we probably want to now's a good time to have somebody review it, right, Bill?
That's true. So I'm assuming you're referring to having a will and or
yes.
a trust.
Yes.
Usually, if you have a trust, you have a will too.
Yeah.
And then the durable power of attorney.
Correct.
The designation of healthcare surrogate.
Correct.
And the living will.
Yeah. And then we throw the last one, or the other ones that we throw in sometimes is like, do you need a pre-need guardianship thing?
Correct. A pre-need guardian declaration.
Yeah. And so those are the areas that we want to kind of talk about. And I guess, Bill, when Joe Steckler started this thing 15 years ago after successfully building up Brevard Alzheimer's and getting those Joe's Clubs built, he was so ahead of his time because today we have so many more seniors than we have ever had for, number one, more people turning 65. Number two, people just flat living longer. And number three, people are still moving to Florida in droves. And so there are seniors who are popping up every day in Brevard County who need to think through these things before it becomes a problem.
Correct. And so your New Year's resolution should be to get your documents done.
Yes. We say get your ducks in a row. And we literally say that this is the number 2 topic. So we have 7 chapters, and the first one is your health, because you need to work on your health and be as healthy as you can, whatever your circumstance. But literally, the very next chapter we say is, but you got to have these documents in place, because I love this. I've heard you say it before. If you don't have a plan, the government has a plan for you. It's just probably not what you had in mind.
Correct. And so the will and trust thing, everybody should have at a minimum a will.
Yeah.
And realize that wills go through probate. The key to the discussion is whether or not your assets go through probate. And you can avoid probate by putting an asset in a trust. You can avoid probate on the asset by putting a beneficiary on it. Mm-hmm. Or sometimes the asset will avoid probate just because it is jointly titled with somebody who has survivorship rights.
Yeah.
So those are the 3 ways you can avoid probate: is joint title with survivorship rights, put a beneficiary on it, or put it in a trust. But at a minimum, you should still have a will, even if you have beneficiaries on everything, just because the will could come into play. You know, if you have a wrongful death action or something like that, there are other reasons why you need to have a will. But you should be familiar with all the different ways your assets can pass upon your death.
Yeah.
So you may not realize that, but you need to be aware of that.
Yeah, and especially too, right, if you have a plan in mind, like I want this to go to so-and-so, and I had this kind of earmarked because I wanted somebody over here to benefit. Maybe you wanted to leave money to helping seniors. I'm just saying, as a charity. But anyway, if you have wishes and things that you want to have happen, if you don't spell those out, it's not going to happen. And Bill, you and I have done so many radio shows over the years and TV shows. By the way, all of these are available to you at helpingseniorsofbrevard.org. You can go in there and search by topic. But I know one of the things that we've talked about is, particularly in this land of second and third marriages, there's a lot of unintended consequences if you didn't spell out exactly how you meant for things to go.
Correct. And you could end up with a result you don't want, or you could end up with a huge conflict in the family that ends up in litigation.
Yeah.
If you don't know. You know, a perfect example is a while back I had a lady come in, and she didn't own a house. She was renting, but she wanted to leave. She had 3 kids, so she wanted to leave 30% to one kid, 30% to another kid, 30% to the third kid, and 10% to the church. Mm-hmm. And I asked her, what are your assets consist of? And she goes, well, basically I have some bank accounts.
Yeah.
And I go, well, do you have beneficiaries on them? Oh, yeah, I have all 3 children named as beneficiaries.
Oh.
And I said, well, that's going to go to all 3 of your kids. Where are you going to get the 10% that goes to the church?
Yeah, exactly.
Because your assets are going to pass, and your will's not going to be relevant.
Right.
So if you don't know how that all works, you can have some unintended consequences.
Yeah, we talk a lot about a little knowledge can be a dangerous thing. We're going to get really into that in the second half of the show. We're talking with board-certified elder law attorney Bill Johnson, William A. Johnson. You will definitely want to stick around, because we're going to dive into the details of those top 5 things that need to be part of your legal New Year's resolution.
12:32 right now in the afternoon here on this Wednesday. You're listening to the lunchtime edition of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Pretty soon we'll be coming up with the dinner time edition too, I think, Kerry.
I love it. Let's do it. Let's make it happen. You're the president. Let's do it.
We'll make that happen then for sure. Yes.
Good.
And let me reintroduce the host of the show and the executive director of Helping Seniors of Brevard. Here is none other than Kerry Fink.
Hey, thanks, John. It's always good to be gathered around the radio lunchtime here at 90.3 FM, WEJF, and also for those of you listening online at WEJF.net. We've been having a great conversation with board-certified elder law attorney. There are literally, I don't know, there must be hundreds and hundreds of attorneys in Brevard County, but there are literally only a handful. I think it's the number is 2 or 3 here in Brevard County of people who have actually are fully, I guess you call it, Florida barred attorneys, who are then also took the extra steps of becoming board certified. That means they are like the top of the class when it comes to this kind of stuff. And Bill, in your case, you actually served for some time also as the head of the elder law division for the Florida Bar. Am I saying that right?
Correct.
So we are so fortunate to have you in the studio to share wisdom, because our topic today is New Year's resolutions as it pertains to your legal documents. And we talk so much in the helping seniors world because we answer the call from families and seniors, and a lot of times we're walking into a crisis and trying to help them navigate. And Bill, I know in your office, somebody's in the hospital, they can't respond or whatever's going on, and now the family is trying to figure out what to do next because the road wasn't made clear, or there's just no road at all, and they're going to have to figure this out. And I know you're very, very good at helping families kind of navigate what can happen within the legal system and not. But it's so much better when somebody gets ahead of it and starts making plans before there's a crisis.
Correct. We'd rather not be in crisis mode.
Yeah. Yeah.
We'd rather have a plan. If you get ill, this is who's going to make your healthcare decisions. This is who's going to make your financial decisions. This is what your end of life wishes are, rather than us having to make it all up on the spot.
Yeah. Well, during the first half of the show, we kind of got into the conversation a little bit about, we kind of like loosely say there's 5 key areas you want to think about legally. And we talked a little bit about wills and trusts and that. And I want to just as we jump into the remaining topics, I just want to kind of cap that out by saying, like, Bill, so often people see an ad on TV and then they, I can just click a few boxes and this is all done, and now I can sleep well at night because I did my estate planning online. And yet we've talked so many times about when that estate planning document needs to work and it's flawed, you can't go back and redo it, and you guys then end up having to get called in to fix something for, that ends up costing huge legal fees where it all could have been avoided by just sitting down with somebody who knew what they were doing to begin with.
Correct. Usually the going and trying to figure it out after the crisis costs a lot more than having it all in place and not having to need to see an attorney when something happens.
Right, and particularly because people, and also we have such an influx of people who are not Florida natives, so maybe they were being responsible and trying to do this paperwork when they lived up north or out west or wherever they, spent the majority of their working lives, and then they come to Florida and just expect that those documents are going to work, and that's not necessarily a safe function. I know we'll speak about that when we get in particularly into the power of attorney stuff, but that's another factor, right?
It is. If you move to another state, you should have your documents reviewed by an attorney in that state.
Yeah. It just makes sense because, and I think that's one of the things that we as individuals don't understand is that legal stuff, particularly elder law stuff, in particular, is state by state. So that's one of the reasons you can't just do an internet search, because it's going to pull up stuff from states that whatever you're asking may not even be relevant for your situation.
Correct. The documents we outlined at the beginning of the show, the will, trust, power of attorney, healthcare surrogate, living will, pre-need guardian declaration, they're all creatures of state law.
Yeah.
And each state has its own laws.
Yeah, that's why one of the reasons, like I'm sure we'll do it again this year, but one of the shows that we always do when the Florida legislature gets in session, you always track very, very closely what kind of laws are on the table and what the legislators are considering, and if that's going to be helpful or harmful for our seniors. And again, it's a state law, right? It's separate from whatever the U.S. government says it's going to do up in Washington.
Correct.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and then the third reason to really sit down with somebody at the start of the year who knows what they're doing, a board-certified elder law attorney, that really this is their specialty, is because stuff may have changed in your family too. Somebody that you thought might be a good power of attorney person or a designated beneficiary, something may have happened, and they're just not. It's not appropriate at this point.
Correct. You may have visited over the holidays, and there may have been a total change of circumstance.
Yeah.
That needs to be addressed. A death, a birth, marriage, a divorce, something of that nature.
Yeah, and this is an area that you can do yourself so much damage without even thinking about it. Well, Bill, we have. I don't know how many times we've done radio shows where we've talked about things like don't put your kids on a house title or things like that. And yet we had a call last week from a lady who calls the helpline, and this is what she wants to do. Her son needs to be on the house title. So of course, I mean, we know how to walk them through that. Thank God she called as opposed to just doing it.
Good, correct. I mean, so many bad things can happen. You know, your kids' creditors could come after your house.
Yeah.
You can lose your cap on your property taxes and get the whole house reassessed, and your property taxes go up by thousands of dollars. And
incredible.
Yeah, a lot of bad things can happen by doing that.
Yeah, you got to ask an expert, and that's what we say. We in helping seniors, Joe called it an aging plan. We call it getting your ducks in a row, and we say don't try this on your own. Get some help. First of all, even if you're just wading into the water, you do a lot of free seminars and things like at One Senior Place where people just come in and kind of get their toes wet and learn a little bit about this. And you can always call Bill's office or One Senior Place, get a list of when those things are happening. And you have a very good website, floridaelderlaw.net, where you actually have that resource guide that people can start to learn from so they can at least know the right questions to ask.
That's true. And, you know, especially when it comes to getting the 5 documents done.
Yeah.
You know, you need to really go see somebody who does that, you know, either an estate planning or elder law attorney.
Yeah. Well, so we've talked a little bit about maybe document number 1 being the will, trust, that whole end of like what happens with my stuff, and making sure that what happens with your stuff is what you want to have happen with your stuff. But the second area, I guess maybe we dive into the healthcare side of it maybe next, because the question is, if you can't answer questions about your healthcare, who's going to make those decisions for you, right?
Correct. The incapacity side. So if you're incapacitated, you know, Alzheimer's, a stroke or something, and you can't make your own decisions, who's going to make your healthcare decisions? Mm-hmm. That's where the healthcare surrogate comes in. And they make your healthcare decisions when you're unable to give informed consent. You should also have a durable power of attorney.
Right.
That's who you grant the authority to manage your assets and apply for public benefits, sign tax returns, all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
And you do that because if you become incapacitated, somebody's got to manage that.
Yeah.
And then the living will is your end of life, whether or not you want life support continued. If you're, again, incapacitated and in either a terminal condition, an end-stage condition, or a persistent vegetative state.
Yeah.
And then the pre-need guardian declaration is who you want to be your guardian if somebody should file for guardianship. And that's a process where they file a petition to determine your incapacity, and then if that they find you partially or totally incapacitated, then we move on to the second step, which is appointing a guardian to exercise those rights that you're incapable of.
You know, and one of the reasons that, so those are, you just kind of like walked us through the top 5 documents, but there's also some supplemental considerations that I think are part of the whole process when you sit down with somebody who's knowledgeable in this area. And that is, like we kind of started the show, we mentioned that there are VA benefits, for example, for people with service-connected, if they were, you know, we were just talking about, apparently they never closed this thing that if you've been in service anytime since, I think it was 1990, it looked like you are serving in a time of war, and potentially that could make you eligible for VA aid and attendance, as I followed it.
As long as you served for 180 days and you also got discharged anything but dishonorably.
Yeah, and I think what was a little bit surprising to me, because I was telling Bill, I said before he shared that revelation, I had no idea that actually that period of time exists for anybody who's been in service pretty much since that time, subject to those things. But here's the thing that was fascinating to me is, like, it's not like you had to be on the front line carrying a gun or something. You could have been in the back office managing the files. It's important, but you're still considered in harm's way, I guess, because it's considered
You could have
wartime.
been at an Air Force base in Alaska during Desert Storm, and you still are eligible.
So it's important you understand it. But there's another, even if you weren't in the service, though, a lot of us need to be thinking as we're doing our planning about what I call Medicaid planning too, right, Bill? Because that's another area that sometimes somebody will get into and they find out we are going to need a skilled nursing home. And how do we do this without completely going bankrupt because we don't have the assets to support that? And so Medicaid planning becomes another dynamic in all this.
Correct. The other conversation, and you've heard me tell it before, is, when people retire, the things that are on their mind are outliving their money or maintaining their lifestyle, that kind of thing. Way down the list is how am I going to pay for a long-term care event? And that can change everything in the drop of a hat.
Yes.
If you have somebody who gets diagnosed with a disease or illness that creates a long-term care event, all of a sudden now you're trying to have to figure out how you're going to pay for the care.
Yeah.
And most people, a lot of people are under the impression Medicare pays for that. It does not pay for long-term care. And subsequently, you have to have some sort of plan on how you would approach a problem like that.
And I think that's the thing that most of us walk around in the street every day, and we don't because it's not on our radar screen. We're not even thinking about it until a problem presents itself, and then all of a sudden, like, oh my goodness, what do I do? And I was thinking here again, this is one of the problems. If you go see one of those ads in 1-800, I'm going to do my own will or whatever it is, and maybe you do that, but you don't even have and let's just say that you got lucky and you punched all the right buttons and it was actually worked. That still doesn't help you think with some of these dynamics about like Medicare planning because
what else should I be thinking of?
Right, you don't even know how to frame it up. That's why I say to me it feels like in elder law, it's not that you're just playing chess because you're having to think several moves ahead, but to me it feels like you're playing 3D chess because you have all these different dimensions that you have to try to wrangle to get to the best outcome, and that's very individual for each person and their situation.
It is. It is.
So when you just try to cookie cutter something, you're probably going to cookie cutter yourself into a problem.
Well, when you do an online service, all you're doing is getting, they send you a set of documents, and then you print them out and you execute them, and you don't have any interaction with an attorney at all.
No, and I know we've talked about this on the radio before, but I know you would be smiling or laughing about it if it wasn't so serious. But people will come in and present you the will, but you said like they just thought witnesses were optional or something.
Yeah, it's amazing how many people who do online documents just don't follow the instructions.
Yeah, it's incredible. So one of the things as we're making our New Year's resolutions and we're saying we really need to get this updated, to me, what it seems like is maybe step one is find one of the seminars, Bill, that you're offering and attend. It's free of charge. So you get kind of like a good overview, a 30,000-foot overview of maybe things that you need to be thinking about. But then why wouldn't somebody just make an appointment and say, let me just bring my stuff in, have you kind of like zip through it and tell me what I've got right and what I need to fix, I mean, doesn't that seem like that would be like a smart New Year's strategy? It feels like.
Yeah, if you come to one of my seminars, at least, we do offer a free consultation afterwards.
Okay.
Yeah. It won't be the same day, but yeah, we do that.
So then, yeah, because again, like the problem that we're always talking about when it pertains to anything legal, and this is one of the problems, is like everybody's situation is a bit different, right? The family dynamics are different, the finances are different, where the finances are. Like we talk a lot of times in Florida with so many people being snowbirds, like, okay, we're up in the north during the summer months when it's warm, and then we want to be down here in Florida during the winter, and maybe making some correct decisions about where your official residence is and things like that probably has a lot to do with your estate planning too.
And we have a lot of military people too who have been transferred all over the country, if not overseas.
Yeah.
And they have banks all over the country.
You didn't even think about that part of it.
Yeah.
Yeah, and yet, people who are new to Florida, and there are so many people new to Florida, I think one of the things that I have learned along the way as we've had these conversations is it does seem like Florida at least attempts to offer some good protections for the seniors as it pertains to their estates and things like that. Like we've talked about, some of the homestead protections that exist in Florida are not necessarily universal in other states.
Correct. Florida does do a bang-up job on trying to protect the seniors who are here.
Yeah. I mean, we've talked about that, like in other states, you know, if you pass away and there's a big bill left to Medicare, you know, maybe all money starts.
I mean, Medicaid.
Sorry, Medicaid. Maybe money starts getting pulled out of your house or other things.
As they put a lien on your house.
Yeah. Here in Florida, if you do it the right way, that's not a factor, right?
That's not a factor.
So if your idea is like, well, I want to make sure, you know, I have this plan, these kids are going to get this, and this is what's going to happen, it's another reason why you want to get this going the right way now.
And also, you know, you don't need to rely on your neighbor from New Jersey to tell you how it works, because it may be totally different here.
Yeah, it's another thing we talk about. You know, a lot of times people will pull a bulletin, will pull a business card off of maybe a church bulletin board. Just some, you know, lady who's a paralegal or something says, "Oh, I'll help you do this, and it'll be a fraction of the cost." But here again, you it's not only that you're just getting what you pay for, but you could actually getting a whole lot more than you bargained for in terms of problems.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, I've even heard stories, Bill, where somebody went to an attorney that was like a friend of the family. You know, there was somebody that maybe was good with real estate law or something. You know, they just had some connection there. And so they said, "Oh, would you write this up?" "Oh, sure." And then an elder law attorney has to get involved because it isn't actually correctly written.
Correct. You run across that with a lot of jack of all trades attorneys who try to do all kinds of things and, you know, end up not being a specialist in any area.
Yeah, I kind of, you know, it's like if your doctor says, "I need you to go to," I'm just making this up, a foot doctor. Nope. You know, that's not the time to go see the cardiologist. Cardiologist is going to be great for what they do, but it's not the person who's going to help you with your foot. And so it does seem like it makes really good sense to find the best of the best of the best. And, you know, an expression my dad always said that has always stuck with me. He said, "I'm not rich enough to be able to buy poor," which meant he can't just buy the cheapest thing. He's got to buy the thing that is going to make sure it's doing what we're setting out to do.
Correct.
And so you can't just look at what the upfront cost is, like, "Oh, I could do this for $200 online," whereas that could $200 online or whatever that number is could be $30,000 because of a mistake. And you and I have talked about these $30,000 mistakes many times.
Oh yeah, I've seen $200,000 mistakes.
Oh my goodness!
You know, yeah.
And here we are at the start of the year, and Bill, you have done this for quite a while. You've made a career. You've seen when people have done it well. You've seen when people have totally botched it, and then you've had to get into those situations that are kind of like crisis management. And if there was like something you would say to somebody here at the start of the year who's like, "Yeah, I know, I need to get this going," what do you tell them? Say like,
"Don't procrastinate." Because life is, you know, you never know what's going to happen.
You know,
never, and especially here in Brevard. I mean, if you set foot on the I-95, you're probably taking your life into your own hands.
Oh my God, that's scary to read the news every day.
Yeah, and so subsequently, you know, you should be prepared.
You know, and that's a point. It's interesting because in the helping seniors world, we always say we want to do what Joe had eagerly told us all we need to do, which is make our aging plan. Again, we call it getting your ducks in a row, just to make it seem a little bit less intimidating. But the two sidebar lessons are, number one, don't do this on your own. There are so many good local experts, and I don't care, Bill, if we're talking about like I need to find the best Medicare insurance,
and you're not going to know all the questions to ask.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And so don't try this on your own. But then the second thing, and you just hit it, was we'll tell people aging problems do not get better with age. It seems like you're much better off to tackle stuff early. It's going to be cheaper. You're not going to be under the stress of making decisions under duress. And you're going to have more options because you've got time. You can say, that sounds okay, but let me think about that for a day. As opposed to when somebody's in the hospital yelling at you, a decision has to be made, you know, by 3 o'clock this afternoon, which happens. You know, I've seen it happen.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So I guess the moral of the story for the new year is,
as the Boy Scouts say, be prepared.
So, Bill, let's go over, if somebody wants to reach the office, how do they get a hold of you? And again, maybe they want to find out. I know we said you could call One Senior Place. You could go online, floridaelderlaw.net. I think One Senior Place has an excellent website where they probably put up all these things too. But if they want to get some information about upcoming things,
they can reach us at 321-253-1667.
Yeah, and floridaelderlaw.net, I don't want to minimize the value of that book that you have published for years. It always goes out in the Boomer Guide. It's a great resource. And what I love about it is that it kind of leads you through, in layperson's terms, the things you need to think about, because it's not written in legalese, you know?
Right.
So you can get that right online at floridaelderlaw.net.
Correct. You can download it right off there.
Yeah, and that's a great thing to do. And, invest yourself. I don't know, Bill. To me, every time I think about attorney fees and things like that, I end up thinking several zeros attached to each hour of attorney time. And here you're able to get a lot of information that's going to help you maximize the value of true attorney's time if you'll just take a moment and educate yourself. Like, get that Florida, the book that you have online, the floridaelderlaw.net, or take advantage of one of these free seminars and really invest just an hour or two, because it could be worth tens of thousands of dollars in savings.
And be wary of, like, as you said, doing something online, because you may, if you don't know how to refine your search correctly, may end up getting information from another state that doesn't even apply to Florida.
Exactly. Or that's outdated, right? Because this was some case that was settled in 1974.
Yeah, there's some story that's from the, 2000, and it's all changed since then.
And you and I were also talking about AI. I've heard about some attorneys who aren't doing their work correctly, and then they'll start citing cases AI gave them, and then find out the case didn't even exist.
Yeah, AI is not out there ready to replace attorneys yet.
No,
it's not that good.
Need somebody you can know and trust. So thank you, Bill Johnson, board certified elder law attorney, for joining us today. Before we get to the end of the show, I want to remind everybody, tomorrow's Veterans Resource Roundtable at Joe's Senior Resource Center. Friday is Senior Tech Talks. We also talked about Scam Jam coming up in February 13th. And one other real quick date that I want to throw out there, it's become our annual kickoff for the Helping Seniors car raffle. And you know what? This is going to be, Bill, our 10th annual Helping Seniors car raffle. So we have a date that you need to get on your calendar, so you get it all ready and set that weekend aside. It's October 25th. 2026. Mark Pylox invited us back out to the American Muscle Car Museum. AJ has already said you guys can run with the cars you had last year, so 7 great cars for our winner to pick. I haven't seen the picture yet, but I'm hearing our winner from 2025, Tom Cabana, is selecting a Kia, because that's one of the great choices that was in there. So we'll have that breaking news as soon as he's got his new cars, and we got some photos to share. But listen, one more date I want to throw out. Our official kickoff for the Helping Seniors car raffle has, for years now, there's a great car show at Trinity Wellsprings Church, which is right up there nearly at the entrance of the Space Force base there on South Patrick. And on January 31st, they're going to have their 17th annual Higher Power car show. And they have always invited us out there to be out there, and that is our first official moment to have Helping Seniors raffle tickets, so you could, maybe you're feeling lucky and you say, I get a really low number that's going to help me win. But whatever you do, you're going to be helping us in the work of helping seniors. And as a nonprofit, we can only go as far as you help us to do. So please help us, and please come out and have fun on January 31st, in addition to everything else we're talking about. So with that, Bill, that's our show for today. We'll look forward to being right back with you next Wednesday. See you then. We'll have Dr. Lee Sheldon. That's always fun.